Builder's Paradise, 20% off all day, every day. Where you're shopping, Builder's Paradise. While you're saving, everyday low prices. Builder's Paradise, everyday low prices, 20% off all day, every day. Builder's Paradise, saving sweet all day, every day.
Everyday low prices.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Thought That Get Results. I'm Reverend Webbo Herbert, and as per usual we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line, address it to the Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized and you're getting on the show. You take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we'll not accept anything that we deem is not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Thank you all again for joining us, your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. You can also follow our live video stream of this program on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio, on our YouTube channel, Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe. Thank you all again for joining us, your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. Tonight, Conrad Nile-Libert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a pleasant good evening to my colleague, Mr. Brand, and to your hard-working staff of here at Vaughan Radio. Good evening. Webbo, I'm happy to be here once again as we gather to discuss issues affecting the people here in Nevis and regionally and internationally. I would like to say also good evening to my friends in the international circle in Toronto and Connecticut and Florida, always in tune to this wonderful program. I welcome you guys once again. Webbo, as you know, I'm always happy to be a part of this conversation. And I hope at the end of the night, Webbo, that we can come to some kind of probably clarification and for us here to be enlightened on what the public have in the forefront of their mind. I must express once again, Webbo, thank you for having me this evening.
The Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a very pleasant good evening to my fellow panelists. Conrad Nile-Libert, good evening to your wonderful staff here at Vaughan Radio, and good evening to all those who are listening this edition of the Let's Talk show tonight. I want to say good evening to those who are listening here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, those who are listening in the neighboring islands, down south all the way up north, and certainly over the pond and in Europe, wherever they may be. It's indeed a pleasure for us to be here tonight. Webbo, I want to say good night to all those persons who are in our various hospitals here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I hope and pray that with the assistance, of course, of our medical professionals, our hard-working doctors and nurses and all the orderlies, that they will soon be up and about, back on their feet while they continue their journey. I hope that they will be well very soon. Whereby I want to, and of course to those who may be seeking medical attention overseas throughout the region and further afield, I hope that just as we pray for those who are here in the Federation, that they too will be well. But I want to take this opportunity to offer some condolences. Since I've been here last, we would have lost Vincent Humpy Clark here from the Ramsbury area. Certainly want to offer my very deepest condolences to his dear wife and his entire family. One of our quintessential committed taximen here on the island. One who always sought to promote Nevis in to our visitors, and try to do what I think has always been a very exemplary job to market Nevis whenever he meets or greets tourists. So I want to offer my very deep condolences to his family, Webbo, to the family of Cindy Morton right here from Bath, who would have left us today. Her mom, Stephanie Morton, right here in Bath. Young lady by I want to as well offer my very deep condolences to the entire family on the passing of Cindy. Like I said, a young woman would have left us. Webbo, one of my workers there at the post office, Miss Wilshire, would have lost her daughter, tender age. Certainly want to say to her how saddened we are for her loss, for the entire family's loss of. It's never easy to lose a loved one. It's a child. It's even a bit more burdensome on your mental state. So I really want to say to Andesia and the entire family, dad or other family members, how saddened we are at the loss. Webbo, and also to the family of Mr. Clarence Hendrickson, there in the Quadricode area. This is a gentleman who we would have celebrated a few years ago with a stamp issue, over 100. And I want to say to his family and to all those who knew him, who were very fond of him, who took care of him for some time. We are sad to see that he would have left us, 100. We have lived a long and fruitful, productive life. I believe that he would have seen the transformation of our island, of our federation, and of our world, really. And he would have left us. I hope that the entire family and all those who mourn can remember those who are in mourning tonight, those who would have bring them some semblance of joy and happiness in their lives over the years, and reflect on their struggles, reflect on their passing, and remind us, Webbo, that it's a road that I believe that all of us would have to take at some point. It's never easy, it's never something that we want to see happen to anyone. But I hope that tonight, as the various families go through this very painful period in their life, that they can still look to their Creator with a semblance of hope and joy, knowing that they would have come, they would have shared, they would have walked this earth and make some contribution to the development of our island. But I want to say to those who are celebrating tonight, whether it's a birthday, an anniversary, or some accomplishment in their life, I hope that they are having a wonderful evening, and I hope that they can enjoy this evening. On my way here, the atmosphere is, the air is very light, the atmosphere is very conducive to almost take an evening walk on the outside. So I hope that those who are celebrating, that they can do so. Enjoy the natural cool breeze of nature that we have here, and I hope that they can continue to have a wonderful celebration. Webbo, thank you for the invitation, and I'm indeed delighted to join you tonight.
Before we get into what you have to put on the table, let me just address something that a listener accosted me today and promised that they will be listening, and I said listen early because I would mention it, because I'm afraid. he is telling me that everybody is waiting on this destiny interview. Let me say it once, I say it again, and I appreciate that with the listeners and all that. Not just now, but over the years, we keep trying. And we can't make people do certain things. If a person feels that they owe us nothing or the public nothing, it's all up to them. If they want us to interview on behalf of the public, we'll do it. They don't want us to do it, we can't do anything about it. However, I got faith and I got hope. And I still am waiting, because a man is as good as his word. When they postponed the interview, they said they will get back to us. And then I went on and I said to the gentleman, you all work with me. So all who have any weight, any powers, or anything, and you can help us get the interview on behalf of the public. And all who, according to some persons, discourage or stop them, reverse that. Let's talk about it. So, gentlemen and your group, I hope that that is fair, right? We're still waiting, and we think it will happen. Secondly, hello, Ted Hobson. We got you. And thirdly, I have something I want to discuss. I don't know if I want to discuss it tonight, but I have something I want to discuss. I was speaking with a couple of folks, and in terms of the society, I think it really needs to be addressed. But I'll yield now. Naya.
I would like you to discuss it tonight, because we might fall short of a circumstance tomorrow, and you may regret that you didn't discuss it tonight. And
that's all right. It comes if you listen to the opening comment that I just made, right? I am a patient fellow, so just like I'm waiting for the people to work with us, if it doesn't happen tonight, God's willing, it will happen. So, Bran, what you got?
We have seen that both the United States and Israel have launched an attack on Iran, and that part of the world is in a state of warfare, so to speak. We continue to see that this is an area of the world that is always appear to be restless. We continue to see a number of persons being killed in this conflict. And one of the things, Webbo, that continue to be of concern for us, I believe, in this part of the world, that when this conflict starts, we are severely impacted. Continues to see, Webbo, at this time where the price of oil is already creeping up, and that will definitely have an impact on everything that we do in this part of the world. Business will now have to pay a bit more for the cost of fuel in everything that they produce. The potential for electricity to be more expensive, the potential for travel to be more expensive. So this conflict, Webbo, we were of the view that the conversations that were being had between the United States and Iran were getting to a point where there could have been an agreement regarding their nuclear ambition, but it appears that patience would have run out, and hence we are now being faced with this conflict. We have been seeing, Webbo, that the leadership of the United States over the last year, since they have once again taken office, they were not afraid to trigger these kind of events. We have seen what would have happened in Venezuela. And I think, Webbo, that as a region, these kind of incidences and these kind of conflicts is creating some challenges for us in this part of the world. I believe it was the very West Indies team who were in India having some difficulty to get back to the Caribbean. We continue to see the disruption of travel. Some areas virtually no-fly zone because of this conflict. And I think that this disruption, Webbo, is going to bring some additional hardship to citizens of the world that is already feeling. My hope and my prayer, Webbo, is that this conflict will be short-lived, that cooler heads will prevail. Right? I'm hoping that whatever differences that have sparked this incident could be resolved very quickly, and these nuclear powers can settle down and try and put this global phenomenon back on track. It's of concern, Webbo, because in every conflict, war is just a mixture of death and pain and destruction. And I'm hoping that this would be something that would come to an end very, very, very quickly, Webbo.
I truly hope not for these things to happen, to be quite honest. And one of the problems is that we never seems to get the right reasons why these things are taking place. We see what happened in Venezuela, and one might wonder if Iran was to probably deliver oil to Cuba, how capable they would be at this point. I think there's a bit too much of an aggression, and I think it comes back to the differences amongst humanity and the lack of respect that we have sometimes, and the lack of trust that we have with humanity on a global level. And probably talking from a standpoint of government, Iran must not have a nuclear weapon or nuclear capabilities, but Israel can have it. America can have it. England can have it. But the people of Iran doesn't love their family, doesn't love their children, and so they are on a different wavelength as it relates to life in particular and in general. I think these type of mentality have led to a lot of instability, a lot of wars, and it's a matter of suppression. We see what happened in the past with Iraq. They went into Iraq and they in search for weapons of mass destruction. In the end, all admitted that there was none. It was a mistake, but it left chaos and a situation that have not even been resolved up to yet. More chaos than when Saddam Hussein was there. Saddam Hussein, his whole cabinet was executed, was hanged. His family members was hanged. And people like Tony Blair have confessed, who was then the Prime Minister of England, and said that they have received wrong intelligence from, I don't know, the FBI or the CIA or somebody. I'm not saying, everything can be the way it seems. And I'm not saying that governments to governments does not try to give a 649. But I think sometimes, we got to be, as Webbo is, more patient, more wait and see. Because I've been listening to the news tonight, and President Trump is saying he feels like Iran was about to attack, so they attacked before. I don't know what can lead one to think about Iran attacking who? If Iran attack Israel, then America is going to come in. If Iran attack America, Israel is going to come in, and it's going to be destructive to Iran. So to me, it is searching for reasons for this this war that they have unleashed on the Iranian people. I believe that it's far too much, and no one really understand the real reason why. I mean, nuclear capability. I mean, Israel just came out of Iran the other day, or Iran. Well, basically, the real reason, from my point of view, is that Iran is a part of what they would probably describe as the axis of evil. You know, a part of China movement, of Russia movement, of North Korea. And I suppose to deal with Iran is to weaken one chain link in this chain of nations which they think is anti-America. So it's about might, it's about power, it's about dominance, it's about controlling the globe. It's unfortunate that President Trump have turned into that type of leader when he was just about going after the Nobel Peace Prize. After he did not get it, then he said he no longer have much regards to peace. These are my words, but as it relates to, he put in more emphasis on America first. I'm not sure if the war that I've started over the weekend is part of his action towards putting America first. But I mean, it's just more human suffering. It's over 1,000 people that have been killed so far in the last couple of days. And as Mr. Brand said, global hardship, global hardship would be felt, all across the globe. And really, I am, sometimes very casual about saying or taking sides in American politics, and I am disappointed, to be quite honest, in Donald Trump's action quite recently against Venezuela here in the Caribbean. It seems like he's really extending the dominance of America in various aspects: economic, military might, and influence, throughout the globe. And who doesn't comply will feel the force or the might of the American war machine. And of course, since we've been looking at the Gaza war, we have seen so much hypocrisy, put it that way, as it relates to the norm and what is expected in terms of warfare. Rules that have been standing for many decades have been breached. We see human hunger as being used as a weapon. We see the cutting off of medical supplies and services, and it looks to me like it's more a destruction to the people than even getting anywhere with expanding their political philosophy or their political ideology, because you cannot put a government in Iran or in Iraq or even in Venezuela and expect it to have that calm and that success which one will want to see a nation achieve. I think that's been tried too many times, and look at Afghanistan, and to be trying it today again, it's just repeating. It's almost like a act I forget that word, but it's almost like an act that doesn't really bring about that response that you claim to be desiring, and so we are under that thing once again, war in the Middle East, and the repercussions that comes from it, shortage in fuel the rising price in global travel, the rising price in so many areas. It's almost like a calm that never really get the time to really reach the people after the Gaza war, you know. And I think it's time for it's time for a better world. I suppose those who can make it better seems to be failing at that in a big way.
Well, you know, to me, I'm not persuaded as yet that these type of conflicts bring much unity. I believe that they leave a generation bitter. They leave many persons who are disillusioned. They leave many countries who feel that there are some double standard when it comes to geopolitical dynamics and how things can shift towards or against them overnight at times. In all of this, Webbo, there continue to be significant suffering of what I would call innocent people, and throughout in the last century, we continue to see these various conflicts that have left many individuals disillusioned, left many countries in a state of devastation. Naya spoke about situation there in Gaza, and look at the kind of devastation. One can only ask, well, how can one human relate to another human in this kind of way? You know, just the sense of sheer level of death and destruction. It's painful to watch, Webbo, when you see that we are living in a time and are living in a period where I believe that people can disagree. They can sit across the table. They can formulate an opinion. They don't necessarily have to agree, but at least they can solve some of these issues in a different way. I know right here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have sat right around this table and we have lamented at times about a situation that we ourselves have experienced, this periodic and sporadic murder situation that we had faced, and we always ask the question, if can't these situations be resolved in a different way? And Webbo, I am always wondering, well, why is it that we are so quick to destroy something to try and build it back? And when you look at how landscapes are being changed by the level of bombing and death and destruction, you are losing people's psyche, people's destroying people's mental state. And how one can expect that people can continue to live in peace and unity when perhaps these kind of heavy-handed, destructive approach are being taken. But it's at times it's disheartening to see these type of situation that keep happening over and over and over again, and because of persons' different philosophy and persons' different belief, and it's almost as if that if you don't sing from my music sheet, you are not supposed to be singing at all. And I don't think that we were created that way. I believe that all of us can have our different opinion, we can have our different views. Like I said, we don't always have to agree, but I think that at least wherever we can sit, they can sit. And when I look at even an organization like the United Nations, where an organization that came out of the Second World War, where it was generally felt that this was a body that could create some semblance of stability in the world, where it was an organization that would oftentimes seek to be the peacemaker between nations and between mankind. But it's almost as if these type of organizations now have become irrelevant, because it's just as if that the mandate that they created for themselves have not been lived up to. Persons are just prepared to go off on their own and do what they want to do without any regard for. But it's a time when I think that humanity in general perhaps have not been as kind to each other as they can, or perhaps as they should be.
Well, just to move away from that a little bit, I think we have said a lot on that issue, but I'm happy that you're here tonight, Mr. Brand, because I think last week I spoke of a circumstance, and I wish you were here just to chip in on it and to give some assurance, if that's the word. And I was actually reminded by an individual who have some concern, and tell me, well, when Mr. Brand come, bring up the topic. And it's simply about the fisherman pier in Charlestown, and because last week I spoke to the fact that the fishermen are severely affected when the tourist boat comes in. And of course, we every morning, and when I wake up and then I see a tourist boat, I have that sense that, okay, things are happening for the little island. I think during the tourist season, everybody will like to see a tourist boat like every day, and the tourist boat truly gets in the way of the fishermen functioning as they would like, or as they ought to, as it relates to the pier that's being shared by the fishermen and the tourists. I was told that when the tourist boats are in, then the fishermen can't function to the pier. And so I'm happy that you're here tonight to shed some light on that matter. It is one of great concern, and it has been so for a very long time.
I'm happy that you raised that, because I too have been, I've had numerous conversations with various persons who are directly affected and who from time to time have to move out of the area because of the requirement of the ISPS code, I think it is, whenever a cruise ship is in. It has been something that I've been wrestling with for some time. We have sought to seek funding to have that pier reconstructed. Just, I believe it may have been about a month or so ago, we have entered into some conversation with some donor financing agency too, and it's a project that we are hoping that can be in collaboration with some other project on Sinkits. We are seeking to gather some funding to deal with project on Sinkits and this particular project. We have not necessarily concluded or given a green light as to the availability of the funding, but that is something that I know we have been seeking to work on for some time. It has taken some time. I know that there have been a semblance of frustration with the fishermen, and it is something that I gave a commitment to on assuming office, and it has never moved far away from my pursuit. But it has taken some time. I am hoping that soon, very soon, we should be able to know exactly if those funds will be available to reconstruct that pier.
And well, I hope the people involved, the people affected, are hearing you, and I hope that brings them some comfort going forward. We are now coming close to the end of the tourist season, and so the pier would be a lot more free for them to function, as you know, and it goes without saying the fishermen play that integral role in life, you know. I mean, for us here in Nevis, and feeding the country, and of course as occupation. And so I do hope that they have heard what you have said, and they can extend their patience to accommodate you know, what you have said as it relates to giving the time for funding to be released, and the work to be done. I do hope that happens before the next season, really. That will be good. That will be good.
Now, what I will say to you as well, we have had an estimate for that a few years now, actually. We have had a design of it in conjunction with one of the fishermen who have given some very important insight into that as to how they think that it would be a benefit to them. So we have that design. We have had an estimate from a gentleman who would have constructed similar piers like this before. So we have, I think, most of what we need to implement. One of our biggest hurdles has been trying to access some financing and funding to do that.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Just to a little insight into the Destiny project, and I realized that I read in the newspaper that there is a time limit on something, which I didn't really understand it well when I read it in the newspaper. Is there a time limit, Mr. Brand, on this application and the response to the application?
Well, I think what one may need to consider is that the lands in the area are privately owned lands. And the developers would have entered into a certain agreement with these landowners. And it's almost, in my mind, perhaps getting on to a year into those agreements. And I think that the developers, in my mind, are now at a stage where that clock perhaps is almost running up with those agreements. So I think that is of some concern to them, and of course, for what can happen if that time elapses, you never can tell. But it is of certain concern to them in terms of what it is that they are bringing to the table. We would have indicated that the document was sent to the federal government in December last year. Basically, the NIA more or less endorsing the project, and we are somewhat still in a waiting period for a response on that. We are hoping that we will be able to get a response very shortly, so that the developers can decide whether they are going to go left, go right, or whatever.
Is it problematic that the people over on the other side in St. have acknowledged and said publicly that they received this document from the Nevis Island administration at the end of January? Is it problematic?
Is it problematic that they said that?
Yeah.
Well,
because you have said that you have sent it over on the 23rd, and they have said that they have acknowledged receipt of it in the latter days of January.
But two things can be correct. We sent it, and this is when they acknowledge it.
Okay. I'm asking if that's problematic from your point of view. Because here we are talking about time, and that's quite a lot of time. That's a lot of time. I mean, the two islands are very close, and in today's world, of course, you know what I mean. And but I do understand what you're saying. You know, sending and acknowledging receipt is two different things completely. Is there any suspicion as it relates to a windful waste of time from your point of view, as it relates to response, and not just the response, developments in St. as it relates to what you guys have considered to be okay?
I would hope not that there is a willful waste of time. I'm using your language. If it is, then that would be very unfortunate, because I feel that, in my humble estimation, that this can be a project that can not only benefit Nevis, but can also benefit St. Kitts as well. And if it's felt that there is a willful and malicious waste of time, that's unfortunate, if that's the case.
I realize that 2 committees has been established in St. Kitts to look at things in general. I say things in general because one seems to have been developed to assign to look at the legislation, and the other at the development agreement, or maybe what you guys have sent to St. Kitts. Don't you think one of those committees seems to be excessive in that it's not really within the legislation that such committee should be developed on St. Kitts?
Well, the legislation speaks to a committee to be established if the project is on St. Kitts, to give some advice to the federal government. It could be an exercise in duplicity, and I am hoping that the various committees that have been established does not cause any undue delay in terms of giving the necessary and relevant advice to the federal cabinet to make their decision.
Well, how much time do you think that you would consider to be undue delay for them to respond?
I have no idea what may be an appropriate amount of time. I believe that this, in my mind, is a project or a development of national importance, and I believe that it would warrant the necessary amount of time that is required to get an expeditious and speedy turnaround time, and that is my opinion.
Were you expecting a response to be had by now?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we all are in the waiting lounge to see the administration and the people to see what's next. I do, from the words of the Premier, I was expecting a response by now, and I believe he was also. And I'm not sure how long would it take that, we start saying, well, this is crucial, this is something is going on. But I suppose we will continue to wait.
Well, while we continue to wait, I don't believe that we all can wait forever.
Yeah, but you were quite vague as it relates to how long would you say is enough time. You said you don't know how long.
It's difficult to predict what is enough time. I've said that this is a project of national importance that and ought to probably be given some semblance of priority and urgency. This is something that I feel is in the best interest of both islands, and you have something of such scope and such nature that you would want to delegate and provide as much commitment and time to it as possible.
The civil society has been really putting on some pressure. A civil society, the coalition of what do they call themselves? But the civil society is coming together, and they have come together in a body, and they have been exerting some pressure to have a copy of what is being sent to Syncets. Do you think they are worthy of such?
I think it's a request that I feel that would be had in due time, in due course. We have, as said, we would have sent the document to Syncets. Perhaps, who knows, Syncets might come back with certain modifications and so on and so forth and that kind of thing. And not to get into the back and forth and who changed what or who said, you would want to probably go to the public with a cleaner copy as possible. But Naya, we have had, in my mind, major developments here in the Federation before. Perhaps not to the extent of what is being proposed. And we have seen the transformation that Four Seasons have brought to Nevis. We have seen the impact that the Marriott and Christopher Harbour and all of those would have had on Syncets and of course other developments. And there really has not been perhaps this level of interest / scrutiny as now being propelled on this particular project. Albeit something that is unique, something that is different, and I feel that as we seek to serve the public, we should. But the public have never seen any of those agreements. Four Seasons have been around now for what, 35 years?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair comparison? Perhaps not, but I think that it is something that we can perhaps give some consideration to, that there have been significant development here before without anything being shared with the public. Not that I'm saying that it is right or something that is acceptable, but I'm just drawing the parallel that here it is, where we would have sought to share what the project is, the scope of it, the nature of it, what it's about, and
well, if the public didn't ask, and then you can obviously go forward. But if the public asks, I think the public is exercising a fundamental right, as it relates to the Freedom of Information Act and so forth. And I'm sure you know why this project has been so much under the microscope and so much being said and asked how about this project. It's actually the first in the world. It's actually the first of that kind.
Yes, it's
in the world. You know, I know we always say the world is a small place, but Nevis is hosting something which is the first in the world, and you would expect a lot of skepticism and of course scrutiny, and so much has been written about the project, really.
First in the world, there have been attempts at this being done. I believe that there was something done, I think, in South America where...
in Honduras?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's not necessarily the first in the world, probably first in this part of the world, in this hemisphere.
Oh, the one in Honduras didn't work out pretty well, it looks like.
It didn't work out because one government may have given an agreement and then the next government come and do something to that agreement. So,
well, that is quite possible with this one, isn't it? Also, and the consequence would be a huge bill on the people's shoulder. But no doubt, Mr. Brand, you would understand why the project have gathered so much,
absolutely,
so much attention.
Absolutely.
What you would actually like to see at this point, Mr. Brand, as it relates to the project, and it's coming forth. And
what I would like to see, at this point,
as it relates to the project coming on stream and going forward.
Well, I think the first order of business would be for the federal government to have a clear position on the matter. I don't think that anything can either move forward, sideways, up, down, without the federal government giving a final position or give some guidance as to what is their thinking on the project. I think that would give some. I think that would give some guidance as to how we can move forward. There are things that we need to adjust. I think that would be something that will move.
Mr. Brenner, I could ask you a question?
Sure.
Local people, and I know that you argue that the persons who are doing this project is local as well. But you understand what I mean when I say local people?
Yes.
Right. When we have an issue, you think we get the same sort of attention from our representatives to get that issue over the hill?
Not all the time.
Okay. Why shouldn't we?
Well, you should, actually.
Okay, so why don't we? Especially when it's possible.
I'm not sure why we don't. We really should, actually. We really should, because we are put in this position to be of service to the people, really. And I once heard someone said that they did not elect a government; they elected a representative. And I think as representatives, we are to be and try to be as accommodating as possible to serve our people.
Yes, and of course we are speaking of government, and we are speaking of federal government, which is, we are, attached to the federal government by, in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
But after your administration have okay the proposal, it seems, and why it is up to the guys across the water for it to happen, whether or not?
Well, I wouldn't want to put it that way. I think that we need to recognize our constitution, well, let me say the Nevis Island Administration constitutional limitations. While we have a Nevis Island Administration in place to deal with certain matters, there are still certain aspects of our constitutional order that would require the involvement of the federal government. This is a project that, of course, would involve things like foreign affairs, This is a project that would involve matters of national security. The Nevis Island Administration does not have any authority to deal with national security or foreign affairs. So the involvement of the federal government is absolutely critical to ensure that these things be given some consideration.
Okay, just to enlighten me, you speak about national security. I mean, can you be a little more explicit in that regard?
Well, this is a project
because from my understanding.
Let me just take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your panelists. Webbo, I have a few questions for Mr. Brown.
Good evening. Caller, I'm barely hearing you. Can you raise your voice a bit, please?
Yes, good evening.
That's better. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Mr. Brown, I have a few questions for you.
Yeah.
One, could you tell me how long have land been selling over there for the Destiny project? How long have land been selling over there? That's one. Number two, how many realtors are involved in selling lands over there for Destiny? And three, it's in the air all over that Mrs. Brantley, who has a realtor firm, has been selling land over there for Destiny. That being the case, if this is so, don't you see this as a conflict of interest on behalf of the Premier?
For Destiny?
Yeah.
Or she have been trying to purchase land for Destiny?
Whatever, trying to, whatever the case is.
Well, the first question you asked is how long...
how long have land been selling over there?
I do not know the answer to that, as to how long.
You don't know the answer to that?
No, I
Mr.
honestly...
Brandt, I also think, I don't think that you are really 100% behind this project, but you guys just have to follow the leader. And I think that's the long and short of it. That is my contribution. Thank you.
So you need me to answer the other two questions?
Go ahead.
You said that you asked how many realtors that have been dealing with. To the best of my knowledge, I'm aware that is only one realtor that has been engaged in trying to garner the land for the development. And you ask about conflict of interest. Caller, the Mrs. Brantley is a business person. She would have engaged in realty business long before this Destiny, and she have engaged in selling property throughout the length and breadth of Nevis for many years. And I am finding it a bit difficult to see why is that is a conflict of interest. Mrs. Brantley is more than capable and competent to engage in business on the island of Nevis.
Yes, you're right, Mr. Brand. You're right, Mr. Brand. But you would understand why the public may draw some kind of conclusion as it relates to what the caller is talking about. You would understand that, don't you? And you would understand this is simply not just a Nevis people response or reaction. It will be the reaction globally. Even if Donald Trump's wife was involved in playing that role between an investor and the local people, something that would transform America, it would seem to be something that the people would be a little uncomfortable with. You would understand that.
I hear you. Yeah, I hear you.
And you would also agree with me that if the Premier does not realize or not aware of that expectation, he would be almost not being realistic.
Well, I think that the Premier is well aware of the concern that has been raised, and I believe that he would have addressed that and dealt with that as he sees fit.
Yeah, that's true, because the issue has really stirred up a bit, and even in the I think I read something from the New York Times quite recently, and I think they always seems to make that a part of it, for whatever reason. I honestly understand your position, the Premier's position, and Ladies Brantley's position, and I have absolutely no big query about that. But the point I'm making, I've made that point here, that it is a reaction from the people that would be the same almost throughout the globe, and I hope that it doesn't lead to conflict. I understand we got to be very careful, because you can easily be brought underneath the clock, and but I just want to establish that from my point of view, there is no need to go down that road. So you mentioned the Constitution as it relates to when I asked you the question, why is it we have to wait for that nod from across? And I understand the legislation make that requirements, but what about the Constitution itself that speaks to the authority of the island administration as it relates to the land of Nevis, in Nevis?
Now, let me answer you this.
And I understand what the legislation asks as it relates to the Destiny Project or the SSZ. Maybe not the Destiny, but the SSC, yeah? But there is an underlying right to the lands in Nevis given by the Constitution, given to the island administration. Would that come into effect if you does not get the nod from St. Kitts?
I need you to take for a moment, Naya, let's for a moment remove the land in Nevis off the table for a moment.
Yeah.
And look at the askings of this development. This development is...
Mr. Brand, could you just hold a second? I'll come back to you. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening,
sir.
Yes. I find that there is too much tiptoeing around that particular issue. In my opinion, the Premier should have gone above and beyond to make sure there was not even the appearance of conflict, because, as was pointed out, it's a worldwide phenomenon. There is that temptation for people in power to abuse it in the sense of what may appear to be nepotism or conflict. And so that is why there are laws and regulations against it. And actually, in places, let's say like Britain, where we got our laws from, even the appearance of, even the whiff of conflict is enough to spark outrage and resignation. For some reason, we here are supposed to accept a different standard, using things like our small size and those kinds of things, when we know better. Okay, we absolutely know better, and I don't know the excuse of well, of course, it's her business, can be used to justify this. I mean, it's too close for comfort to insider trading. okay, and the appearance of corruption. And so I would like if a higher standard is set when it comes to this. I mean, it's a fait accompli, yes. But you would have thought that any serious developer would themselves have been cognizant of the fact that, well, just for appearance's sake, have some kind of bidding or a couple realtors involved in this, okay? And so, like I said, it's kind of late now, but we should not normalize this, put it that way. In the future, when things like this happen, I think there should be more of an outcry against it. If our laws and regulations or the Integrity Commission cannot, if there are loopholes in those things, the oversight bodies, then I think those should be tightened up. And speaking of tightening up, the mention was made of 2 committees on St. Kitts to look over the Destiny project. Actually, I don't think that's the case. One committee is supposed to look over the SSZ legislation, okay, with the intention of perhaps changing, strengthening, to use their word, the legislation, and that can result in a stall, whether by coincidence or it was really intended to stall as a stall mechanism. That's the effect. The other committee, my understanding, is that it would look at the project. I think that's more in line with the current legislation because, as was pointed out, there may be committees to deal with that. Okay? But the overall effect is that the project is stalled, and that stalling, for whatever reason, may have consequences that we should look at. And finally, mention was made of the UN in the apparent impotence of the UN in terms of solving the world conflict. It's easy to blame the UN when we all know the root of the problem. Okay? The big players in the UN have veto power, and they cannot do anything without their backing. And what we've seen of late is that they don't have the backing. You don't even hear, this is a major conflict. I haven't heard of any meeting on the Security Council being called, because I know it's a waste of time, because the U.S. will do whatever it wants to do. Okay? And Russia is in the same position in terms of Ukraine. And China, I don't know what China wants to be able to take over Taiwan at some point without the objection of anybody. So we're at a really sorry state. I don't know how we get out of it, but it's really unfortunate that the world seems on a different trajectory to where it was for some time, when there was at least some semblance of peace and rule of law and those kinds of things. It's totally out the door, and it's nations like ours who have to be on their P's and Q's as to how to navigate this new world order. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, caller. Webbo, Naya would have asked about the federal government role and the Constitution and so on. I was saying to Naya that based on the askings of this particular development, there need to be some involvement of the federal government. And I would also say that, let's say, for example, that this was a an investor who wanted to buy some land to do a hotel with all of the requirement to do with citizenship and security, all of that, trimmings and so on and so forth, then it would have been a totally different matter. Navies would have had and been able to attract, let's say, for example, the Four Seasons. Four Seasons came, Four Seasons indicated that they wanted land to build a hotel, and straight conversation between the NIA and the developers then. Like I said, this is a slightly different asking, where matters of citizenship and question of national security and those kind of things, that rests with the federal government. And I think that is the difference, where a typical or ordinary investor or development versus this particular development.
Okay,
So, Mr. Brand, by that very nature, the project is different and involve different things.
Yes.
Of a different level of magnitude, if you will.
Yes.
Okay. So that if you have certain things which then require more more things are involved in terms of scope. It may also come with more scrutiny.
Absolutely.
Etc., etc., etc. And therefore, we ought not to now apply the old standards to it.
Not necessarily. This particular project requires additional layers.
Well, I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? Naya, go ahead.
I wanted to, because words have been spoken, but I want to get to the bottom of matters of national security, such as it relates to this project.
Okay, let me give you an example. This development was asking or making some requests to have things like their own security force or police force or something like that, right? The Nevis Island Administration does not control national security. That is a matter that rests squarely with the federal government when it comes to national security, control of the police, and that kind of overriding dictates under the Constitution. You with me?
I'm with you, yes. I'm trying to understand this in a sense. They make requests that they would like to have their own security police force. That's what they would like.
That's what they would like.
Okay. And it was too difficult or it's not in the authority of the island administration to say no. Only the federal administration can say no on that particular matter.
Well, when it comes to national security, and even though we would have stated our own position on, we are talking about a particular issue.
Yes.
We would have stated our position on that particular issue. That still needed some involvement of the federal government, because the federal government is involved or responsible for national security.
Okay, I understand that with great reservation, I must say. And you understand that I understand that with great reservation, in a sense, you know. But I am still, look, you would admit that the developers would have liked to have a state within a state.
I'm listening to you.
Would you admit that? That they would have liked to. I am not saying they would have or they would be successful in that. But their intention basically was. I'm not saying is, was a state within a state.
They basically would have asked for certain special carve-outs, which you know, one can say that this would be, and that is why the legislation is called a special sustainability zone. There are certain things special about it, and that is why the legislation was drafted that way.
Yeah, Mr. Brand, I think the scrutiny the project is getting, it's really of great relevance. We are dealing with something brand new here on a global level, and it's really for the island administration and the federal government to fight, because I know the island administration want to have the project. We want to see some more things happening on island. But I think, you know, with the intention or with the original intentions of the developer, you guys are really fighting for the Constitution to really be sovereign as it relates to the development. I am not sure. You probably have read those economic development agreement 200 times, I suppose, to ensure that that feeling of a state within a state be minimized to a great extent from the public point of view, but when it comes to the actual running of things, and I know the oversight committee is there to also to ensure that the developers stay in tune to the economic agreement. But I do believe that there's going to be that tendency and that constant force, that push towards a state within a state. Does that make sense?
I hear you.
Do you expect that?
And we expect that the rights and the freedom and the constitutional order in St. Kitts and Nevis will basically prevail throughout every 36 square mile and 68 square mile of St. Kitts and Nevis territory.
Yes. We can only wait and see. Because I do feel what there's a bit of a setback. It goes without saying, you know. One would have expected more fluency coming back from St. Kitts, but I do believe the unsettled situation or minds of the people in the Federation, even over in St. Kitts, have created that thing within the Prime Minister to seek further input as it relates to the legislation. As the callers say, the first committee, I think they say a committee, a 15-member committee, have been put in place to look at the legislation, because, of course, it's because, you know, the people in the law fraternity, the people in civil society, and quite a lot of external writings have really taken root on this matter. And they have been spreading that sense of skepticism, necessary and relevant skepticism, I suppose. And I personally think that Jew is very mindful of that. I don't think Jew is in a real strong position over in St. Kitts. And I think there's an election coming up, and he's very mindful that he does not do anything to jeopardize his second term. Do you think that coming into play with what the island administration is asking of him?
I believe that Dr. Drew would look at this from...
let me just take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, evening again. That description just now of a state within a state, could we get a clear response from Mr. Brand in that is not something that we can condone, a state within a state.
But caller, you did not hear my answer. I said that the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis would be enshrined on the 36 square mile of Nevis and the 68 square mile of St. Kitts.
Right. So you absolutely reject any project that would have elements of that, the state within the state.
That is what I'm saying, caller.
Okay. Well, that is really reassuring. I hope your other colleagues have a similar point of view. Having said that, why can't there be elements, because it's a large project, why can't elements of the project be allowed to go ahead in the meantime? Are the developers demanding that it be wholesale? For instance, there is talk of several hotels, for instance, and even construction of residences can be. You can have some of those. After all, it's been done in Christopher Harbour, it was done in Frigate Bay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with those elements of the project.
But caller, you would agree, walk with me, you would agree those that you're making reference to, the plan was passed in full.
Okay.
But it's just that they did certain parts first. You agree with that?
It's just that what?
Okay, let me give a hypothetical. So I have a project and I want to build 15 buildings. And I said, well, I'm going to do it in phases.
Right.
Phase 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Phase 1 will have 4 buildings. Phase 2 will have 8, and then so on so over a certain period of time.
Right.
But I already got planning past the whole project. So I'm asking whether or not in those references that you made, is it not true that the whole plan was already passed?
Well, if the whole plan was passed, the whole plan had better be in conformity with what we expect.
I'm speaking about what you brought up, Christopher Harbour, etc. Walk with me. You reference Christopher Harbour and what else?
Frigate Bay.
Frigate Bay. So what I'm saying is it not true that likely those projects have already been passed in full, notwithstanding Christopher Harbour, etc., not completed?
Yes.
Right. So it's not a clear-cut comparison. You agree with that?
When it's a clear-cut,
okay.
Remember
Okay. Walk with me.
Even before.
Walk with me. You were asking whether or not this particular project.
But if there are controversial parts, right?
According to who?
According to civil society, according to a number of people.
But not according to the proposers, right?
Well, it's not controversial to the proposals because they want that.
But this is what I'm saying. And then who has the authority to pass or not pass?
The NIA and the federal government. Yeah.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Right. But what I'm saying is to engender some trust and, if you want to call it that, some comfort level with the developers. Why can't, for instance, a hotel be built or to be built? Okay. Why can't
you don't think caller, you don't think maybe if you had known a little more about what's in this thing, it might have helped you better to ask questions or
yes,
not?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well let's
It would be nice if the whole country, as the civil society people are suggesting, if they knew details of the project even at this stage.
No, I'm talking about you and me. I don't know the other thing that you're talking about. I'm talking about you and me and Naya and
anybody else,
the other M and Brandon. So, yeah, okay.
It would be nice.
Right. Okay.
Right. I was just suggesting a way out of the impasse. Okay.
Of the what?
of the impasse right now. In
Oh,
terms
there's,
of
well,
debating.
well, educate me, there's one?
In my opinion, there is one.
Okay, so let's leave it there. Let's leave that there, okay? Yeah.
Okay, one question.
I think, I wonder if that caller will... You all help me now, help me get that interview. That might clear up a lot of things. All those who have the power to stop it, reverse it, no. So let's work with me.
You sure it might clear up a lot of things? You sure it might clear up a lot of things?
I don't know. Sometimes I just talk, you know. Anybody can talk. Yes. Okay. Let's get back to.
Okay. There was one thing, Mr. Brand, and very, very, very early in this, I spoke to somebody in planning, a guy, and he gave me the impression that this new project, planning wouldn't have nothing to do with it. They're going to have their own authority as it relates to planning. Like the same concern planning may have for a development would not be the same application of their authority with this particular. Is that true?
I've said before that, and that concern have been raised, but I think that we need to recognize that the Nevis Island administration has within the ambit of the ordinance to put this committee in place, this monitoring and vetting committee in place. And I am of the view, and I'm expecting that once that committee is in place, there would be representation from planning, right? It would be in my mind, perhaps maybe not the best idea to do a major development of this scale and this nature without a planning department have any eyes on it whatsoever. I think that would be perhaps not the best thing. So I think that the committee that is going to be put in place, that there would have to be some representation on that committee from a planning point of view to eye certain things. Yes, we expect that there would be person on that committee who are involved in environmental matters, who are involved in financial matters, legal components, and all of that. And as well, there should be some component of planning on that as well.
Okay, so some component of planning. So am I to go away thinking that yes, planning would have some authority, but not the usual authority?
I would think that that's a fair assessment, because we expect that there would be, we would need to see the construction methods. We would need to see type of materials, that we would have to use. So there would have to be some involvement from our planning department, some way, shape, or form.
Okay, so the individual was partially right, because planning has a great role to play in any construction that goes on here on the island. They're a bit troublesome sometimes, but they're doing their work. And
let me just take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, Mr. Webber. Work with me. It was nice meeting you at Best Buy. Curtis.
Oh, well, it's good to have you, my friend.
I was just listening and just saying good night,
Yes, well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm listening.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
You too, boy.
All right. The man is as good as his word. Met him. He identified, he knew of me because another fellow was saying, walk with me. And he promised he will say hello, and he just did. So, Curtis, have a good evening. Yes, go ahead.
Well, Curtis, I break my train of thought right there.
That's
and we were talking about planning. Yeah, I was saying there sometimes it's a bit troublesome, but they're doing their work. But it looks like this project would be spared from the full authority that planning usually exercise over general construction here on island. And I know it's a massive project, and I know it will be quite a lot of work, quite a lot of monitoring as it relates to the planning department. You see, all these little things, Mr. Brand, and you put them all together, and we almost have a state within a state. All these little things.
Naya, do you know that?
And I do believe, because I don't think my elected representative is going to let down the people. I do believe that the Constitution
Naya,
will be adhered to.
do you know that?
You understand?
Do you know that Frigate Bay Development has its own planning board?
No, I didn't know, sir. What do you mean own planning board?
Any development that takes place on Frigate Bay goes to a particular entity.
Okay.
Frigate Bay Development Corporation Board.
All right. So that does not in any way link to the government planning department.
It's almost a separate entity, and the idea is to we spoke about the committee. It basically create an environment where these because Frigate Bay was an area designated for hotel development and that type of development, and it was felt then that when they were dealing with that component that there can be an entity specifically that deals with the development in that area, and that is what they have done. They have made that carve out. So any application, any hotel, any development in that area is being dealt with by that particular board committee mechanism, and I think that is the thinking and the idea of the same set.
Okay. Well, it's good. It's good, because sometimes, you know, the public just need to know, you know, the way it works, because I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
And as I said, you know, it's small bits and pieces. When we put them all together, you can see an administration really working hard to establish the sovereignty of or re-establish or to
say re-establish. It was
the sovereignty, not re-establish, but to continue to have the sovereignty of our constitution be upheld and be respected, because the small bits and pieces, you know, when you add them up, you know, it doesn't give that full authority to the developers to say, well, it's a state within a state. But I think there are features which I think we will have to be struggling with. The oversight committee have a lot of work to do.
we recognize that.
And I think I read in the newspaper that the oversight committee, from the island administration point of view, would be established to do exactly that and not to review the application. So the oversight committee can be established for one or the other.
Our sense is that both of it will basically run parallel. You run parallel in the sense that you have to vet all of the financials, you have to vet all of the what is being proposed, the various type of development, hotel, whatever, and all of that form part of the actual overall development. You spoke about the planning and the construction side of it. All of that is going to be morphed into one oversight, one review.
Okay, when we speak of the proposal, do we speak of the development agreement? when we speak of the proposal contain their side of the.
You have the proposal and you have the development agreement and all of that. We expect that all of that will be reviewed.
Okay. Okay, and those are two different documents.
Good.
Correct. Well, the public are waiting to hear and to have knowledge of such. I do understand what you're saying, that since it's going to be reviewed, you want to come with a clean page to the public. I do understand that. But I think it's been promised that the public will have a chance to. Not like we can influence it, but I'm not sure if it's within the ratification, within the House, within the House of Assembly,
but Naya,
the public will know about it. Is that the case?
I think that we need to recognize that the Navy Silent Administration undertook an exercise in the interest of the public.
Yes.
We would have met with numerous organizations to try and perhaps better informed what it is that we can do to make things a bit better. I believe you were at one of those town hall. We met with the chamber, we met with the church, we met with sixth formers, teachers, and we listened to some of the questions. We recognize that their input and their questions and some of the areas of concerns that they have were able to help us to better inform how we can make certain adjustments and so on in the document.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, just an FYI, there is no longer a separate planning board for a planning entity for Frigate Bay. Hello?
What, you said they have changed that?
Yes, it's now one planning board for the whole island.
When did they change that?
Some time ago. It's not just now. It's years, right? It started out as you said, but it was changed. I think when the OECS legislated certain things.
Carla, you're sure about that?
Gentlemen,
I'm very sure about that.
I'm making an observation here from the discussion you're having and stuff like that, right? And so I want to ask this question for my own edification. Even as you're talking about this planning board and check these buildings and stuff like that and so on, isn't it not correct that the act that you have passed and that will govern that, will it not, if the act allows certain things, would it not override the other things in planning?
That's the SSD legislation?
Yes. So then you almost said that.
Yes, that is true.
You almost point, well, maybe it's my duty too, so I just did.
Yeah, that is true. And it's also true. It's also true that even though there is a planning board, they themselves don't obey their own rules and regulations. There are projects now going on here at Frigate Bay, which under the previous covenants should not have been allowed, but it happened. Okay, so it really does depend a lot on you can have all the authority that the planning board has, but there are apparently higher powers, and legislation was mentioned that seemed to override all of that.
Okay. All right. You see, the thing to me, right, is that I think when we have a debate, I don't mind people bringing their points and maybe winning a debate, but sometimes winning is not everything. Tomorrow morning, God's willing, let me make a note. I'm going to read a poem that I normally read. You all listen to the poem, okay? Tomorrow morning, maybe about 6:40, right? So sometimes we must consider sometimes that winning it all in every cause is not always the right thing to do. But I interrupted somebody. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, Mr. Brand, a lot of the question I'm asking you is for clarification in my mind, and of course in the minds of many people in the public, really. You know, it's not necessarily a challenge as to, you know, whatever. And so I just wanted to say that, really, you know, because a lot of people in the public just needs to know and understand a little more as to what is actually going on. Many times things are approached in all kind of legal terms and so forth, you know.
I want to thank you for that, because I think that this particular investment opportunity have created quite a lot of scrutiny within the Federation, and both locally and regionally as well, even internationally. I believe that it is well within the ambit of the public to ask questions, to seek clarification, and to try and be as informed as they possibly can be. I don't think that it is anything that we can shy away from. I believe that we are living in an environment where the access and the hunger and the desire for information is all around us. I believe that people, in my mind, have a right to get those clarification, and wherever we can provide those clarification and those information, we can. I believe that oftentimes, though, that while there may be some requirement for some information and clarification, there may be at times some, I don't want to say hesitation or reluctance to give that information, because there are certain things that are still not being finalized and still not being ventilated. I think that with that in mind, I think that we try to be as and share as much of the information that we have based on those things that we have settled on, so to speak. It's a project that I feel, if Common Stream, would definitely change the landscape of Nevis. Four Seasons would have done that. There are Months and Kids. There have been some developments that would have had a kind of impact on the country. And we are sensing that this would also be of such. And I think that it's in the public's interest to know exactly and to share as much information as we can. And I personally don't really see it to be a major issue, because, like I said earlier, we are here to try and serve the public and to share as much information as we can. So we expect this kind of robust discussion, especially of something of such magnitude.
Just one question again. Would crypto be the currency in the zone? In the
I am not sure on that one, Naya.
Is it possible?
I think it's possible.
Chuckman, them going to be paid in crypto?
Chuckman going to be paid what?
Going to be paid? No, because I mean, I got some information from, you know, some individual. I mean, a white friend of mine who.
He wants to be paid in crypto?
No, he's telling me that crypto will be the currency used in the zone, when it's all up and running. You're not sure about that. What I know is that I don't know much about the crypto and how it works. I know that for sure.
I think that over many decades and many hundreds of years, we would have traded in different way, shape, or form. You know, back then we would have traded with animals and, and those kind of things. We enter into a period now where we traded with precious metals and those kind of things and so on and so forth. Crypto.
You think that's a relevant question? I have asked?
It's a fair question. I think that in time we would see the manifestation of such trading practices, and I believe that the new world order now are seeking to try and get around the usual way of doing business. I think that there are many countries, many nations that are looking at the possibility of bypassing, so to speak, the usual channels in terms of conducting business. And as a region, I think that at some point we will get to a stage where we would have to look at whether it's crypto or some other kind of mechanism for our own survival. I feel that while we continue to seek and press for certain type of development, there would need to be certain different types of mechanism of trading, and trading in the proper sense where there is a valid method of transaction for you to be paid for your service and for you to be paid for your goods, whether it's crypto or something else. I think that at some point we are going to get to that stage.
Actually, I had the opportunity of asking the CEO of the company about this cryptocurrency thing, and he said to me in a forum that he no longer deals with that or trade in the cryptocurrency thing, because I made mention to him that it is one of the vehicles that facilitate the money laundering and so forth, as I read once upon a time. And he said he no longer trade in that currency or have much to do with that currency. So I'll be surprised if that's become the currency of business. But I know also that a lot of the affiliates of the project are coming from that area of finance or indulgence in the crypto.
You know that for a fact?
For a fact.
Okay.
I can say almost for a fact, because I'm not saying anything wrong with these individuals, because Johnson himself.
Let me just take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening. This is Livingstone Williams, a.k.a. Stoneman.
Good evening,
Mr.
sir.
Brand. Yeah, Mr. Brand. The actual island main road over in that area, what is to become of that?
The main road along the coast?
Yes.
Well, caller, we have looked at that road some time ago, and we recognize that the cost to put in that road would have been, I believe it was upward of $50,000-$60,000, and we have basically kind of put a pause in.
You mean
million.
But
And
you know, you work with me. By way of information, you know the figure that the government released was 40 million.
40 million?
You know, maybe it was actually 50-60, but you know the public release, at least that I know, was 40 million.
That may have been the figure for the road, but when you think about adding in the water and the electricity and so on, it would...
Right, but I'm telling you what figure we
Okay,
got.
all right.
And we didn't get that breakdown. I'm just...
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
That's fine.
go ahead,
That's
caller.
fine.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking, in the rendition which Destiny put out,
Yes.
I don't see the island main road.
No, it's
Shift.
not there, caller.
So, well, why is it not going to be there? What happens to the people who are not going to sell? How will they get access to their lands?
Well, caller, you are absolutely correct. If there is persons who are in and around the area who wish not to sell their land, they must have access to their land, and that is by law.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that, because how you're talking, how the Premier is talking, how Jensen is talking, because I've had negotiations with them, and they in no shape or form want to do anything but own the land outright. You cannot sell them a piece of the land, your land. They want everything.
Yeah, but caller, it is you can buy land around. I'm using myself. You can buy land around my land, and I don't have access to my land. How am I going to get to my land?
Well, I hope you remember that, because again, as I say, in the rendition which I have seen, and I'm sure everybody else has seen, I do not see no access road. Right. Even my brothers called me and asked me, well, what is this? Where's the Bay Road? Or is this the reason why they want to dominate and own all the land so that they could ship the road wherever they want?
Well, in design concept, scholar, persons may have a concept in terms of how they would like their development to develop.
But how could they have a concept and they don't even have the land?
But caller, you can put down anything you want on a piece of paper and then try and see if you can get it.
Okay, well let me see if I can help. So the design or the concept or whatever has been approved, does that include access, Mr. Brand?
It includes access.
I'm listening to the conversation, and based on what the caller is asking, and you're saying that there has to be access for persons who don't sell their land.
Absolutely, Webbo.
So the question I'm asking, something has been approved already, correct? When I say approved, sent over to St. Kitts, approved by the Nevis Island Administration.
A concept, Webbo, has been approved, so to speak, in terms of what the concept is.
Right. Does the concept have the access road that the caller is talking about?
Webbo, let's put a caveat here. Let me explain to you why I'm saying this. The developers will not get approval for anything unless they have ownership of the land.
Right, but before we get to that,
yes,
I'm asking whether or not the proposed concept that went over with its approval, does it include the access road?
The access road was not on the concept.
Okay.
There were some roads that are in the development.
So the answer is no.
Right.
Okay, caller, go ahead.
Right. So they are jumping the gun.
They are what?
They are jumping the gun because, well, let me ask you a question, if you can answer it, or if you will answer it. How much land do they have today, percentage-wise, and areas?
I believe they were up to about 60-70% of what they were targeting, and I stand to be corrected, caller, based on what I'm aware of.
And in doing that, how is it they are still aggressively going after people, even if they've got a 1 acre lot?
Well, caller, I said earlier that they can put down their concept on paper and try and get the land that they want to do the development. That's a matter for them.
But my question is, how can you approve a concept if they don't have the land?
But caller,
is that not back to front?
Caller,
I mean, the Premier said they approached you guys. They were told they don't own the land. The government doesn't own the land. They have to go out to the landowners before they can get approval. You're saying they've got approval from York so far.
Caller,
but they don't have the land.
Caller,
they don't have the land.
Caller. The Navy Silent
My
Administration.
name is Livingstone Williams.
Okay,
My name is not Caller.
Mr. Williams, the NIA would have sent over to Sinkits their endorsement of the project, right? It is left then for the developers to make sure that in the final analysis they are able to acquire all the land that, according to them, that they need in their development.
But no, what I was told
Yes.
by Mrs. Brantley and what I've heard from Mark Brantley is that they have to get the land first. So how have you sent something over to Sinkit which is not valid?
When you say it's not valid, what you mean?
Well, they have to. You just said they have to get the land. Part of the discussion is they have to get the land.
Yes.
They haven't got all the land. So how could you approve something which is half baked? They don't have the land which they need. You yourself said they only got 67%.
Okay, let me ask this. The caller identified himself as Mr. Williams, who has land in the area. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know, Mr. Brand, if the project, the concept that you approve, included Mr. Williams's land as an example?
I believe, Webbo, that they may have considered all of the land in the area.
So the answer is yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah, go on.
go ahead, caller.
So this is my point. You have approved something which is not feasible. By your own words, you said they have to get the land first. But now you're saying, well, we've still approved it even though they don't have the land. Does that make sense?
But caller, I said that we would have sent over an endorsement of the project.
No, again,
Well,
you said, the Premier has said, his wife in negotiations with me said that the government has told them they need to get the land first, right? Before the project would be considered or approved. You are saying you have approved the concept without the land. Not so. That's not the facts.
We have basically approved the project based on the land allocation that they are trying to get.
No. Don't play with words. No, don't play with words. Do they have the lands to do the project? You've just said that they've incorporated our lands. When we haven't sold, we have no intention of selling.
Well, fine. If it is that you have no intention of selling, then they would have to redesign their development.
Yes. So then again, so that means that you approve something which is not feasible.
But caller, let me say this.
I keep telling you, my name is not Carla.
Well,
I have a name.
Sorry. I guess it's a habit that we normally do here. You have identified yourself, Mr. Williams, and I appreciate that. The developers would have come to make their proposal based on certain volume of land that they would have liked, right? They would have done a concept based on a certain acreage of land that they would have liked. That concept would have been based on their design submitted, and generally we would have basically endorsed the project and the development. We would have sent over to Sinkits our endorsement of the project. In the final analysis, the developers is going to have to ensure that they either, one, get all of the land, and if they don't get all of the land, then they would have to go back to the drawing board and carve out what they did not get.
Yeah, but Mr. Brando, Mr. Brand, to be fair,
why don't you make? Why so they're going to be doing work twice? Why? Why are you endorsing something which is not in place when you said that's what had to happen in the first place?
But Go ahead, Mr. Williams.
Well, I went to Mr. Brand to answer. I mean, Why endorse something which you know you're going to have to go back over because they don't have the land?
I hear you, caller, and if it is that they would have made certain projection and in the end they don't get all that they need, then they would have to go back to the drawing board?
That is a back to front, backward argument to me. But have a good night, sir.
Thank you.
You all work with me. Help me to get the interview. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good night. Good night. Good evening. Good evening. Webbo?
Caller, before you work with me. Work with me. Work with me.
I don't really want to suggest anything. So I don't know why they want to force it down our throat. Good night.
Good night. Who's got the last word?
Webbo, I want to end by offering condolences to the Most Reverend Dean Emeritus Rudolph Smitten. I forgot to offer condolences to the Smitten family there in the Barnsgot on the passing of the late Dean Rudolph Smitten, one of the long-standing ministers in the Anglican Church. From Barnsgot, he would have spent quite a bit of time working on St. Kitts and in Antigua. And we also learned of his passing this week. So I want to offer my condolences to his family and, of course, to the entire Anglican family throughout the region. I believe that he would have given yeoman service in the Anglican Church, and I hope that as we remember him as well, Webbo, that his family can take some comfort that he would have served with distinction over these many, many decades in this region.
This program repeats at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Join Keats Scarborough at 8 o'clock on Thursday evening for Government at Work. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, taught that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
On the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Needless Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.